What is going on, fitness coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives Make Money Online Trainer podcast. And guys, today we're going to be talking about building trust in your relationships. But before we do that, I just want to let you guys know that if you are in the Change Lives Academy, the PT Domination All Access event tickets are going live tonight at 5 p.m. PST. You are not going to want to miss out. We already have 80 people on the guest list, which is super cool. We're expecting 300. So make sure you guys get your tickets. Tickets go live 5 p.m. PST. Be in the Academy. Guys, we're talking about trust today. And I think that Kirsten and I having a productive conversation about building trust is important because when we first started our relationship, both of us came from a place where we couldn't trust our partners.
Yeah.
When I don't know if I ever told you this. I think I did. But getting out of my previous relationship, I remember there was like a period in time where I felt this distance from my partner. And this was right before you. I might have told you this. I might not have. But the relationship that I was in previously, I remember having these weird feelings about my partner and being I feel like she's talking to somebody. And I was like, nah, maybe she's not. And I remember I had this weird feeling that she was talking to somebody, and I did fucking what every crazy partner does, and I ended up going through her phone. And I found a dude that she was talking to, and I confronted her about it, and she's like, why'd you go through my phone? And I'm like, knew that you were talking to some dude. And she was planning to go to Australia with him.
Gut feeling.
So I was I got that gut feeling. She had been planning to go to Australia. So I literally, when I came into the relationship with you, I already had massive trust issues, and I know that you felt the same way.
Yeah, I actually have a story that's kind of similar. So prior to Brian, I was probably in, and this is nothing against this person at all, but I was in the most, I'm going to use the word toxic, even though I don't love it, relationship that I've ever been in. And we were separated for a bit.
Yeah.
And I ended up sleeping with somebody, but was honest with him about it. And he was so angry at me. And I won't go into the details because they get pretty fucking bad. And so it was he was so angry, name calling, you name it. He was so mad. And I ended up having a panic attack. I was breathing really fast. I'm I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I just was I wanted to be honest with you. We weren't together. And after I would say 2 to 3 days of him just going in on me, just making me feel the biggest piece of shit. He then was oh my God, stop, when I was having a panic attack and it felt my heart was going to stop. He's I slept with somebody too. And I was what the fuck? And the days prior to leading up to this, you would just be mind blown. And I was for me, you guys that listen to this probably know me, but I genuinely have to lead with honesty because it is impossible for me to look at somebody in their eyeballs and for them to ask me a question and for me to be dishonest. And so that relationship just completely destroyed any trust that I had. I realized so many people are able to just lie to your face with a smile on their face, and you don't know if they're telling the truth. So it really, really hurt my trust. And I kind of felt I brought that into our relationship even initially.
Yeah, I definitely brought that into our relationship. And I feel before you, I was also when Kirsten and I first started seeing each other, I was literally just coming out of a massive party phase. So me and my ex broke up. After we broke up, I basically partnered with one of my single buddies and we went out every fucking weekend. And that's just we were just partying every single weekend. We were single, we were 25, 26, and we were just going out every weekend. And so I was coming off that phase of my life. And the first kind of and I'll be honest, at the start of mine and Kristen's relationship, she already didn't trust me because I was coming off the party phase.
Yes.
And I felt because she didn't trust me, I was I just felt I was no matter what I do, it's not right. So I was just whatever. I remember the first time I went to Mexico with Brendan, me and Kirsten just started dating. And I decided I wanted to go to Mexico because she's you should hang out with your friends more. Now I took that as oh, she wants me to book a trip with my friends. So I booked a trip to Mexico.
And I don't remember saying that. But.
You did say that 100%. So I booked a trip to Mexico with Brendan, and she broke up with me because she thought that I was going to do something stupid.
Yes.
And on that trip, I ended up not drinking for 100 days to show her that I was serious about being with her. But even then, it was there was still trust issues from both ends because she didn't trust that I was going to stay committed and I was going to stay sober and that I was going to stay faithful because of her previous relationship. And I also had trust issues, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But
yeah, so I think now thinking about it too, you guys, I think two of the reasons why I had such embedded trust issues was one, when I was in my younger years, I was unfaithful and I wasn't trustworthy.
yeah,
And the reason why I think I show up and I lead with honesty is because I know how fucking shitty it feels to have to live with the fact that you were unfaithful or whatever it is that you have done. So That's reason number one. It's like I haven't always been this way, but I also know that I really don't like being the other way. And then reason number two is I've also been in relationships where there wasn't trust. So when I had met Brian, like Brendan was like his single, good looking friend. And I was like, fuck that independent woman vibes. Don't need this fucking man. And I didn't just break up with him, you guys. He had his passport at my house. And I was so set on like, I don't fucking deserve this, like in my own head, that I mailed off his passport.
By the way, literally
No.
a week before she broke up with me, I
Oh,
wrote
this
her
is
a
so bad.
letter and I mailed it to her because I was like feeling all these sorts of vibes. So I wrote her a letter and I mailed it to her. And in the letter, this is not a joke, this actually happened. In the letter, it was like, I love you so much. I could
Yeah.
see us having kids together.
Yeah.
Like, you're my best friend. You're my partner for life. And it was in the mail. So after she broke up with me, I literally told her, I was like, don't open the letter that gets there in 24 hours. She's like, what letter? I'm like, just fucking throw it out. When it gets there, just fucking throw it out. Because at this point, she'd already mailed me my passport. But guys, like, it goes like the other way as well. And there was a period, and so like I felt like there was like we've both done things that like basically kind of like broke trust.
Mhm.
And so we talked about this openly on
Mhm.
mine and Kirsten's honeymoon. I basically cut out drinking and partying because I just like whenever I'm around that environment, I just get triggered to do dumb shit. And so I took 2 weeks off of work. We went on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
And when we went on our honeymoon, I was like so blackout drunk and I ended up finding cocaine and I did cocaine on our honeymoon and I straight up lied to her about it. And I lied to her about it and I kept it a secret for like 6 months. But just like Kirsten said, that like feeling of
Mm.
literally like every night before you go to bed, your conscience just fucking screaming at you and being
Yeah.
like, you are like such an idiot. Like, your wife deserves to know. Like, why would you keep a secret from her? And I think that in the moment, sometimes we feel like, and this is how I felt in the moment, and obviously this isn't true. I'm like, it's just easier for me to bury the secret than it is for me to be honest. But
Mhm.
then that guilt and that shame just like fucking is so
Piles up,
heavy. It's just so
compounds.
heavy and it just
Mhm.
makes you feel so shitty. So I knew that when I told her, I was like, there's like a chance this woman's going to leave me. But I'm like, honestly, if she leaves me for being honest, and at least I can live with myself and look at myself in the mirror, because like I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror at that point.
Mhm.
But so when I was open and I was honest with her, obviously that broke trust. But like, I want to talk about mine and your relationship now, because like you just went on a trip
Mhm.
and like I wasn't fucking nervous at all. And I know that
Mhm.
you've gone on trips before and then
Yeah.
you went out and partied and I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then and so I was like fucking super nervous. And same thing, like I just
Yeah.
went on a trip and there was no issues. And the
No.
reason that there's no issues is because even though Kirsten and I have done things that have broken trust with each other,
Mhm.
I think the main thing that I wanted to focus on today is we don't hold it against each other. Like, I think that the reason that our relationship has that trust now is that we don't hold it against each other. And I think that, so I think it's two things. There's a few things, but I think this is a couple things. So thing number one is both of us are committed to being accountable to our actions.
Yes.
So both
Full
of us are
responsibility.
full responsibility. And
Yes.
so when I've done things that have broken trust with Kirsten, I accept responsibility for my actions. And I'm
Mhm.
like, this is what I did and it wasn't right. And I'm very fucking sorry. And I can't fix what I've done because it's done. But all I can do is apologize, ask for your forgiveness, and work on becoming a better person.
Yes.
And that's both of us.
Yeah, and full responsibility. Like some of y'all, I'm not trying to be a total dickbag when I say this, but some of y'all are saying the words "I forgive you" and then not actually fucking practicing it. I forgive you, but I'm going to bring it up every single time we have an argument. I forgive you, but I'm still festering and thinking about it every single day. So if you can't fully forgive someone to the point where you're actually willing to move forward, you're not supposed to be with that person. Can
Well,
you imagine if I
yeah.
held that over your head?
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
But it's like, so for the definition of forgiveness, guys, look it up. Like, forgiveness means to give as before.
Yes.
And I think that for us, like, we've actually done a lot of like work internally. Like, I do a
Mhm.
lot of work on myself.
Yeah.
She does a lot of work on
Yes,
herself.
sir.
And guys, when we were like we had a fucking phase of our relationship where it was like rocky for a
It
little
was
while.
Rocky
like,
with a capital fucking
I
R.
went away, I partied, I fucking drank, I was an idiot. And
Went
then
MIA.
I went MIA, and then she went away with her fucking homie, and then she was out till like 4 a.m, like drinking with Flo
Almost
Rida.
missed my flight home.
I didn't calls me 4 o'clock in the morning, drunk as fuck. She couldn't fucking get home. I was like, what the fuck? Like, you said you were in your hotel. So we've both done stupid shit. But after that, we do the fucking work. So like, here's another thing. So I think the first thing is we're committed to working on ourselves.
Mhm.
The second thing is when both of us set boundaries, the other person respects them.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like,
Even if
it's
we
so it's
don't want to.
even if we
Yeah.
don't to, as an example, like when I went out and so like I fucking told her that I did drugs on our honeymoon, and she looked at me, she's like, I forgive you. She's like, but if you ever do that again, I will leave you. And she's like, I
Yes.
don't care how painful it is.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was like, okay, like that was like, she's like, I forgive you. She's like, but this is the last time that I'm going to forgive you.
And it was
it's
more
like,
so the fact too, like I was like, I forgive you, but like what I fucking hate is like the 6 months later, because I could feel
yeah,
something was off with us. So I was like, this is like my boundary. Quick communication. Like if something happened, like I know that it's like painful in the moment and you don't know what's going to happen. And maybe I lose this person, but it's like respect the person enough to tell them the honest truth and to tell them what actually happened, because I felt a disconnect
yeah,
between us. I knew something was up. I also think you guys should ask yourself this. I think this is super powerful, and you guys are going to get a lot of value from this next line. So, if you don't trust that your partner can make changes, and if you don't trust that your partner isn't going to repeat the same behavior, that is not someone you should be with. I may have lost trust with Brian temporarily, but I have always trusted the man that Brian has the potential of being, always. Always. No matter what he does, it doesn't matter if it's cocaine on our honeymoon, which honestly, I was more
sorry.
upset about
I'm
him.
not going to peace sign at that. Actually, that's not a good thing to peace sign at.
I was less upset about that and more upset about him just not being honest with me, which I also understand that like a drug addiction is something I don't understand. And so I know how painful it must have been for you. But outside of all those things, I have always trusted the man that Brian could be. And so leaving didn't feel good because I'm like, I'm going to leave this motherfucker because of my ego and like, I don't deserve this. And then he is literally going to be the person that takes full responsibility and accountability for his actions. So are you with somebody that is, I'm sorry, I'm going to change, but they're not actually integral to making those changes?
Yeah, and that's important because let's say, okay, so we're talking about setting boundaries and then respect. So
Yes.
thing number one is both people are working on ourselves.
Yes.
So it's like we work on ourselves and we worked on the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm working on myself, you're working on yourself. And then we
Yeah.
also went to couples counseling
Yes.
when we were fucking bickering and arguing and we couldn't get along because I was pissed about this, she was pissed about this, and we were both like, fuck you. And
Yeah.
so we went to couples counseling so that we could say fuck you in front of a counselor, basically.
And the counselor offered a perspective. Like I would always leave seeing more of his side, and he would
Yeah.
always leave seeing more of my side. But I went into that counseling appointment, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fucking this counselor is gonna fucking roast this motherfucker because I'm right.
Yeah.
And then I would leave and I'd be like, okay. And she would validate a lot of how I was feeling while also offering a different perspective on
Yeah.
what it was that Brian was going through.
Yeah. So that's like, so I'm doing the work on myself. You're doing
Yep.
the work on yourself. We're doing the work on each other. We're doing the work on the relationship.
Yep.
Then I also think that it's like setting boundaries and then respecting the boundaries.
Yes.
And so not only does your partner need to respect your boundaries, but you also need to respect your boundaries.
Mhm.
You need to
Mhm.
respect your boundaries. And like we've had instances, and we don't need to go into it, but where one of us draws a boundary with the other person, and then that boundary gets crossed. And
Yeah.
then the person that drew the boundary is like, okay, I'm gonna exit this conversation and leave this house for a little while.
Yeah. Oh my
Right?
God,
But
yes.
it's like I'm like, I
like,
respect my own boundaries.
yeah.
It's like, so I have to respect the boundary and you have to respect the boundary.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
that's how fucking relationships
Yes.
work. Because if let's say I set a boundary and I'm like, let's say Kristen sets a boundary and she's like, if you ever do drugs again, I'm gonna fucking leave you.
He said,
And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, sounds good. And then I go out fucking 4 weeks later and I'm like, I'm so sorry, babe. There was MDMA at the party and I just ended up doing it. And then I come back and I tell her that and she's like, that's okay, just don't do it again. I'm gonna fucking do it again.
Yeah. Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it's like that, like you're not respecting your own boundary. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of couples do that. It's like a lot of couples will accept
Mhm.
like a lower standard from their partner. And I think that it's because people are afraid of being alone. But I
Yeah.
know that in some of our conversations that we've had
Mhm.
where we've been like, this is the boundary, don't fucking cross it again. It's like when we set that boundary, we also know that like this boundary could mean that it gets crossed again. But I think that a relationship is like learning how to live with each other and
Mhm.
like not compromise who you are as a person, but also be willing to meet your partner in the middle and like understand where your partner's coming from and not cross. Like if your partner draws a clear boundary
Yeah.
and you love them, you respect it.
And I think also just like there's a few things that I want to say. So I think also it's like, is the boundary reasonable? So Brian and I have a boundary that's not like you can't have a single drop of alcohol when you go out. But it's like you cannot get fucking shit faced because good things don't happen when you're shit faced. So there's a boundary that it's like, no, we are not going out and partying, getting absolutely sloshed without one another. That's a boundary. And to me, it's like, of course, there are going to be times where I go out with my friends and like there's shit going on. But for me, it's like, what's more important to me? My relationship with Brian or a night of getting shit faced? And my relationship with Brian takes precedence, like always. I also think like with drugs, it's like for me, it was more about the dishonesty around drugs, but then also like recognizing that like Brian isn't someone that just does drugs recreationally, right? Like it's a slippery slope. So it also comes from a place of genuine like concern and care for him as a person. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like boundaries are one, like with boundaries, it's like, are they reasonable?
Mhm.
Like if you were to be like, you can't wear this out, you can't have a single glass of wine, you can't do this. I'd be like, controlling, fuck no, that's fucking ridiculous. But for him to say, hey, it makes me really uncomfortable when you go out and you get hammered. And I know there's guys that are hitting on you. Like, can we just make an agreement that like shitty things have happened under the influence of alcohol with our relationship? And so let's just not do that.
Mhm.
And my answer to that is like, that's reasonable.
Mhm.
That's a request that I'm like, I'm willing to work with that.
We
Absolutely.
literally decided, we were like, our fucking boundary is that we don't get wasted without each other present.
Nope.
Well, we
Nope.
very rarely get
Wasted
wasted
with
ever.
each other. After
Yeah.
our fucking honeymoon, we were like, getting wasted is
Yeah,
not.
that's not even
yes,
aren't
no,
even words we use anymore.
no,
It's
no,
like
no,
we're
no,
gonna have a
no.
few drinks.
Yes.
It's like we're having a few drinks
Yes.
together, right?
Yes.
We're having
Yeah.
a few drinks together, and like
Yeah.
that's the boundaries. Like that's just like, and that's what's created a healthy relationship with us. Is that's it's like, it's number one, we are working on ourselves at all
Always.
times. Like I'm always working on myself. I'm always focused on myself. She's always focused on herself.
Yeah.
We're focused on building the relationship together. So we're
Yeah.
like working on building our relationship together.
Yeah.
We set boundaries and then we respect boundaries. I think the last thing is like, and we briefly touched on this earlier, but I want to hit it again, was like, we don't hold shit over each other's heads.
No.
So like, yes, I did drugs on the honeymoon, but
Yeah.
every time we get into a fight, she's not like, when we
Never.
went on that
Nope.
fucking honeymoon and you fucking like, it's like when it ended, it was
Yeah.
like when we agreed that like she was going to forgive me and I was going to fucking never do it again.
Mhm.
That was the end of it.
Mhm.
And that, like, I think that that's something that I like really love about a relationship. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that a lot of people are missing is
Yeah.
even like when I was younger, I watched my parents like bring up shit from fucking 6 years
Years
ago.
ago. Yes.
It's like, why are you still holding on to that? Like, it's just like, number one, it negatively impacts you to hold
Yes.
on to that grudge
Yeah.
for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
And number two, it negatively impacts the household. It's like, I ain't gonna fucking hold things over your head for something that you did. And I also think that that comes from doing the work on ourselves,
Yes.
because I don't hold shit over my fucking head for something that I
No.
did like 2 years ago. So I'm not gonna hold it over your head. Like, I'm not like, oh
Mhm.
my God, like
They almost use it as like people use it as like leverage. Like they're
Yeah.
just like waiting for the opportunity to like tear their partner down. Like,
well, you did this, you did
yeah,
this,
you
you did
this,
this.
you
So
did this.
it's okay that I'm fucking doing this.
And you're not keeping tally, you guys.
Yeah.
Like one thing you guys need to remember is that if you're in a relationship right now, or you get into a relationship, that person is not your enemy. You are not in competition with them. You are on the same team. And I think that would be number 4 is like, Brian and I are on the same team. I want to see Brian win.
Mhm.
Brian wants to see me win, and we support each other. So holding every single thing that he did over his head. And this was like work, because I was that fucking girl that would keep tally of every single thing that my partner did so I could hold it over their head.
Mhm.
But it's like, that's not being on the same team. When I say I forgive you, let's move forward. Like a relationship isn't supposed to be 90% fighting and 10% happiness. It's supposed to be the other way around. Like 10% you're going to work on it. 90% of the time you're happy. And that's because you're on the same team. When you say that I forgive you, you actually forgive them. And there's so many fucking chicks. And I think it's because I work with chicks. But this is what they do. And it drives me crazy. And it probably drives me crazy because it's something I did. And now I see how fucking ridiculous it is. And they're like, well, my partner did this and I did this. But my partner did this. And 10 years ago, he did this. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Keeping track? So you won't even take full responsibility for your actions because, well, my actions don't matter because of the 10 things that my partner did 10 years ago. Like when you start fresh, like there is no Brian did 10 things and Kirsten did 2. It's no, we're starting fresh and we're on the same fucking team, period. Stop holding shit over your partner's head if you've said, I forgive you.
Mhm.
Period.
I agree. I also think that this is like, and this is just something to take in and consider if you actually don't trust your partner.
Mhm.
So I'm going to run through a couple scenarios. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you don't trust your partner for whatever reason. Like, I don't trust my fucking partner.
Mhm.
I want you to take an honest look in the mirror and ask yourself this question. Have I done anything that would break trust with my partner?
Yes.
Because
yes.
If you don't trust your partner, oftentimes your external world is just a reflection of what's going on inside of
Yes.
your own psyche. And so, thing number
Fuck
one
yes.
is if you don't trust your partner, the first thing that you need to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself the question, like, have I done anything that would break trust with my partner?
Mhm. Or with myself.
I
Yeah.
would say my partner though.
Yeah.
It's like with my partner because it's like if I'm like, I don't fucking trust Kirsten, like I need to fucking, I don't trust her at all. It's
Oh,
likely
yes.
it's likely that I've done something that's broken trust. And so I'm more aware of things that get broken trust in. So thing number one would be making sure that like look at yourself in the fucking mirror. Have you done something shady?
Yes.
Are you doing something
Yes.
shady? That would be
Yes.
the reason that you fucking don't trust your partner because you're doing something shady. That's number one. Number two is if you're honestly not doing something shady, then maybe look into it. But like I think for the most part, it's oftentimes it
And I
starts with
think
you.
I think too, because like if you do something shady, then so like say you do drugs and Turks and Caicos, okay?
Mm,
And then because you've done it, it's now like you see that doing something shady can be done. And so
yeah.
it's like now it's like, well, if I'm doing this,
Yeah.
then what's my partner doing?
But
So I love that you touched
But
on
people
that.
don't think that though.
No, 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 no,
Nobody
no,
thinks
no,
that.
no,
They just
no,
like they
no.
just project because nobody wants to take a look in the mirror and be like, "Oh, I'm the problem here. It's me.
Yes.
I'm the one."
Yes. And like somebody just asked, they said, what if they've given you reason not to trust him? Brian's given me reasons not to trust him. I've given Brian reasons not to trust me. After those reasons, we have both taken full responsibility, taken action, and both of those things, like all the things that Brian's done that lost like trust with me, and all the things that I've done, like ultimately, do you trust me as like who I'm becoming, the
Yes.
female that I am? Yes. I've always trusted Brian at his core. I know the type of man Brian is. I know the type of stepdad he is. So his actions don't define the trust that I have in him as a human being.
I also think that like if somebody's displayed character traits where you like actively you're like I literally cannot trust this person
Yes.
and like I know that I will never be it. If you can honestly like look at the person you're with, and this applies to business partnerships too, by the way. And I think
Yes.
that like I'm thinking about business partnerships because like my partner is fucking lit, so I don't really
Yes.
have it.
Yes.
Like you're my partner and you're
Yeah.
lit. That's what I was talking about
Yeah.
you. But I've been in business with people where I'm
Yes.
like they do something I can't trust. I'm like,
Oh my God. Yes.
that's weird. And then they do a second thing I can't trust. And then once I'm certain that I can't trust them and I won't be able to trust them again, I get rid of them.
Get rid
That's
of
it.
them. Yes.
That's it. It's like that is the end.
Yes.
Because I think that so many people will stay in relationships or partnerships where they like
Yes.
can't trust their partner. Guys, there's fucking 8 billion people on
in
the
the
planet.
world.
You can literally
Yes.
fucking leave this fucking person that you're with and you'll find somebody else that you will trust.
Yes.
But you can't do that if you're hanging on to something that's like not good for you. And that applies in business, that applies in relationships, that applies in friendships, all of it. So my advice is like if somebody that you're with has done something that has not warranted your trust, right? Then like first things first, look in the mirror. Like,
Yeah.
am I doing something shady?
Yes.
If I'm not doing something shady, okay, it's not me, it's this motherfucker. Okay. Do I honestly believe that this person is going to be able to change their behavior and rectify who they are and like change it up so that they become somebody trustworthy? Okay, well, maybe. Well, are they displaying character traits of wanting to change and getting better?
Yeah.
Or are they displaying character traits of repeating the same fucking behavior?
Yeah.
Okay, they're repeating the same fucking behavior. Okay, is it likely that this person will do something like this again? Yes. Okay, I'm fucking out. Right? Like that's the decision making
And
process.
to add on to that, verbalize your expectations. Like, what do I
Mm.
expect from you? Like, when you're drawing boundaries, like, so many people have these imaginary boundaries they've never voiced, these imaginary expectations. Hey, you did this. This is how it made me feel. This is the boundary I'm drawing. Like, way too many of us don't fucking properly articulate what it is that we're trying to get across,
Mm.
right? So, like, there's these expectations, and an expectation that you haven't verbalized is fucking dog shit, you guys. People can't read your mind. Brian knows this because I've like, well, you should have known. And it's like, how should I have known? You didn't verbalize it. So, like, verbally set your expectations. And it's like, Brian and I love each other. And like, I would bet my life that like we'll spend the rest of our lives just like building this relationship and building an empire together. But if it came to a place where I truly didn't trust who Brian was, he started to go downhill, or vice versa. I started to go downhill and I started to become someone he didn't trust. We wouldn't just stay with each other out of comfortability. We would leave. Like we would leave. I know you would. I would. Like if he all of a sudden was partying again every weekend and like going MIA and like doing drugs on occasion, like that is not the type of person that like I want to be with. It's not aligned with where I'm going. Not that you ever would, but a lot of you guys are with somebody who is on a completely different path than you are, and you're trying to pull them over to your path and they're like, I don't want to go, but you're staying with them on a path that feels like shit for you. So you need to leave. That's, and you have to have the balls to leave. Like, if you don't trust your partner, they're drinking every single weekend, they're taking actions that aren't aligned with where you're trying to go. Stop following them on this path and just let them fucking run free.
Let them run free.
Let them run
Let 'em
free.
run free. That was good. I like that. That's powerful.
Thanks, babe.
That was good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're powerful.
Thank you.
I like the way that Brian, he does this with trainings as well. He'll create step-by-step processes, or here's thing number 1, here's thing number 2, here's thing number 3. I love how you do that with anything, because I kind of just and you just organize it. That's digestible.
Thanks, babe. Cool. Guys, it took work. And
Yes.
when you hear us say the statement, it's 90% fun, 10% work. It was 60% work, 20% fun, 20% runaway
Yeah.
before.
It was.
So it's been it hasn't always been fucking awesome. So
Mm-mm.
I want you to know that, number 1, all relationships take work. Number 2 is you can get to a place where you are happy most of the time. And thankfully, Kirsten and I are in a place where we are happy most of the time. And it just took a lot of fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely broken trust with each other. But again, we don't hold it over each other's fucking heads. We don't hold a resentment to each other. We're not I'm not bringing up shit from the past, and neither is she. It's
we never talk about it besides on this podcast.
Yeah, and we just feel it, we drop it, and we move the fuck on, because we made the commitment to each other, we made the commitment to ourselves, and we made the commitment to our relationship. And I think that is pretty much all I got to say about that.
And we're just our fucking impact is so much bigger than fucking festering in problems that happened 2 years ago. We just I don't know. I like being happy. You like being happy. We like being happy together. So it's the problems that we had 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, it doesn't matter. They're fucking irrelevant, because we're on the same path. We have the same, on the same team.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you got some value. Shameless plug. Go subscribe to me on YouTube at Brian Mark. Where do they find you, babe?
You can find me, Kirsten Mark, across all platforms. The real Kirsten Mark on many platforms. I copied Brian with that one.
Woo! All right, guys. Have the best day of your entire life. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully you got some value. If you did, and you want to learn more about how me and my team can help you scale your online fitness business to $10,000 a month, DM me 10K on Instagram at @TheRealBrianMark for more information, and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help you grow an online coaching business.